Is it already halfway through August and I'm just now wrapping up July? Maybe. Shall we do it anyways? Let's get to it. Hi guys, welcome back, bienvenue and all that jazz. It's time to talk about some books. So I had a very big reading month in July, so let's just dive straight into some reading statistics from the month. In July, I managed to read 14 books and one graphic novel for a total of 7,548 pages, which is a little obscene. The star breakdown is we had one 2.5 star book, one 3.25 star book, one 3.5 star, two 3.75 star, one 4 star, one 4.5 star, and then half of our reads, sweet baby Jesus, were 5-star reads. So I had 7 5-star reads this month for an average of 4.3 stars per book, which I think means I did fantastic. I had so many good books. It was just, it was a good month. It was a good month. So now let's just run through them. Since there's so many books, I'm going to keep my descriptions relatively brief. So the first thing that I'll talk about is I read A Game of Fate by Miss Scarlett St. Clair, and I gave this book 2.5 stars. And let's face it, this type of book is just not for me. I don't like an erotica-centered romance novel. When I'm reading fantasy romance, I really want there to be much more plot, much more fantasy, much less like romanticization of toxic masculine traits that I just don't vibe with. This book is a Hades and Persephone retelling, if you will. It's a companion series to a different series, basically following, so the original series follows the point of view of Persephone, and this we follow the point of view of Hades. Hades is a friggin' horn dog, 24/7. Every motivation, thought, fiber of his being is centered on doing the nasty with Miss Persephone, and that's literally like it. There's no real depth of character. There's really no emotional contact between the two. There's really nothing that makes me feel romance. It just literally, she breathes on the other side of the universe and he gets hard. And like, it's just not, I don't know, just like, no, not my jam. Then the next thing I managed to get to was I finally finished up the Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne, the original trilogy. So I read book 3, The Last Mortal Bond by Brian Staveley, and this was a 3.25 star read for me. It was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful. The main issue that I had, so some of the world building got pretty cool towards the end of book 2 and some of book 3. However, the climax was a little not satisfying. I bet you've never heard that before. Like, it didn't do it for me. There were these conflicts that I felt like were built up for 3 books, and then they were handled in just like such an anticlimactic way. Or one of them actually happened off page. So I was just like, disappointing. So I wanted to love it. Book 2 was better than book 1. Book 3, I was hoping was going to be better than book 2. The ending was not worth the journey for me. So the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne is an epic fantasy trilogy. It has Ketrel, which are these basically assassins trained to fly on these gigantic eagles. It has monks that train to remove themselves from their emotions. It has political intrigue. It just, I don't know. It focuses a lot on like barbarian tribes, which are already kind of a hard sell for me. Like, that's just not my fave, like, trope or whatever, character archetype to follow. Like, I just am not here for the more like barbarian-y things. So yeah, I don't know. Not my fave series. But if any of that sounds cool to you, definitely feel free to check it out. Just be aware that the bad guys are bad because sexual assault. So if that bugs you, just be aware going in. Especially in book 1, it's much more prevalent. In books 2 and 3, it's much less of the case. The next thing I'll talk about is Dune by Frank Herbert. I gave this book 3.5 stars. So it was very middle of the road for me. Like, I could see elements that were super cool. I really liked some of the world building, but Frank Herbert's writing style just isn't necessarily my favorite because I felt like all the super cool, exciting, action-y moments happened off page. And so we're just dealing with the before and the after for all of these pivotal moments. and we never really get to see the moments themselves. And it's a lot of philosophizing, a lot of like fear of the future, a lot of commentary about taking over planets and greed and capitalism and some of the issues that go along with these things. I can see the influence that it's had on many different stories. I can see its influences on Star Wars, on some of the elements of the Wheel of Time. So, like, I appreciate the effect and impact that it's had on SFF as a whole. However, the writing style wasn't my favorite, and there are some more, like, archaic things, like especially the homophobia, where pretty much all of the bad, evil characters are also gay and also pedophiles. And so just that reinforcement of those negative, toxic stereotypes of queer culture, just not my fave, does not vibe with me as a gay man. No, no, no. Not in my house. So, but I mean, it was written in the 50s, and so it is kind of a product of its time. It was good, not great. Moving right along, I read Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I love, 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 love The House on the Cerulean Sea. Under the Whispering Door has similar vibes. She's here. So, Under the Whispering Door has similar vibes. I gave it 3.75 stars. It was really good. It's not a new favorite like The House on the Cerulean Sea. And I think that's largely just because I don't necessarily vibe with all of this like morality wrapped around what comes after we die. And it was very heavy-handed in some of its moral themes. It was very heavy-handed in if you can confront your past, you'll magically become a better person, because the main character is really like a self-centered jerk when we first meet him, and he learns to become a better person because love, and just like, I don't know. And just some of the theming and all of that, just, it was not my, it was really good. Like, I still enjoyed it, but there was just times where the theming was just too heavy-handed and I was not here for it. Then my second 3.75 star read was Starbinder by Mr. Mark Timmony. This is a prequel novella to his fantasy series, which starts with The Blood of the Spear, which is the next book that I was going to mention, which is a 4-star read. And Starbinder had some really cool world-building elements, especially about the Shallue Starbinders. So I think it gave cool world-building aspects, but for me personally, I liked The Blood of the Spear better. And I think that's just because I like being able to sink my teeth into like a nice, meaty, chunky, epic fantasy. I don't necessarily love a novella. So, I mean, not to say that I'm prejudiced against short books, but... So, I mean, it was good. There was some cool world building. Would definitely recommend it. If you enjoyed Blood of the Spear, you should definitely read Starbinder. I don't know that Starbinder would be enough to grab your attention to read The Blood of the Spear unless you love novellas and like to just get a little taste of whether or not you're going to like an author's like writing style. But yeah, so I mean, it was good. And then we have The Blood of the Spear, which is book 1 in his new epic fantasy series, The Eye of Eternity. And this is a very Wheel of Time inspired epic fantasy story. So we have these two brothers that are from this bloodline that connects to the Summoners, and the Summoners are these ancient beings that basically started these demon wars. They could pull demons into their world and control them, I'm assuming, and at some point there was this massive war that basically almost destroyed the world, it seems like, and so now if people are born with this mark of summoning on them, they are killed. And so shenanigans ensue. The boys are set off on like a quest, and it's just a fun time. I really enjoyed it. It has some really cool, unique world building things where it's almost like Witcher meets Wheel of Time. There's almost like this fun demon hunting part that I really enjoyed, and getting to see the different demons and almost like form like an inner bestiary for myself was really fun. I enjoyed most of the characters. I thought the magic is pretty cool. So would highly recommend if you're looking for a good self-pub epic fantasy series, you should definitely check out The Blood of the Spear. Then my 4.5 star book was The Well of Ascension. So this is book 2 in Era 1 Mistborn. I have a spoiler-free / spoiler-filled review of this book that I'll link for you if you want more of my thoughts. So this is the middle book, my least favorite book of the series. I feel like it goes a little bit too hard on the political aspects and the philosophizing about what makes a good political system and what makes a good leader for a political system, and just like a little bit too much of all of that. But there are really cool world building elements that are added in book 2, and it's still a great time. I love Mistborn Era 1. The trilogy as a whole is one of the best trilogies I've ever read. So, I mean, it was still 4.5 stars. What more do you need to know? Then we're into the friggin' all the 5 stars. So the first 5-star book that I will talk about is, we'll talk Age of Legend. So this is book 4 of the Legends of the First Empire series by Mr. Michael J. Sullivan. So the ending especially was fantastic in this book. I really liked some of the character arcs and where we're going. I have since finished the series, and so it's a little hard for me to remember what happened where. Because I read books 5 and 6 last week. So yeah, but I mean, Age of Legend has one of the best cliffhanger endings, especially since I had book 5 ready to go. And it's just a fun series. If you're looking for classic feeling fantasy with twists on classic fantasy races and just emotional twists and turns, and you're just looking for like a fun adventure fantasy, I don't think it gets better than the Legends of the First Empire. It is phenomenal and should highly recommend. Then the next 5-star reads I'll talk about are The Final Empire and The Hero of Ages. So that's book 1 and 3 of Era 1 Mistborn, so that original trilogy. Book 1 has to be one of my favorite book 1s in a series, like, ever. The basic gist of Mistborn Era 1 is we are seeing the world as it exists after the Dark Lord won 1,000 years in the past. Ash falls from the sky, people are enslaved to this noble class. The magic system is very scientific, very science-based. But once again, for both of these, I have a spoiler-free review of book 1, and I have a spoiler-filled discussion of book 3. So if you want more deets on either of those, I'll link them down below and in the cards. So I won't belabor those points, but Mistborn Era 1 is so good. If you haven't read it already, I judge you, but it's okay because there's still time. And then I read Flamefall and Fireborne. So this is books 1 and 2 of the Aurelian cycle by Rosaria Munda. And these are phenomenal. So they are technically YA fantasy, but they have a more nuanced look at childhood trauma and political systems than I was expecting. So it is so good, but like also so sad. So just be ready for that if you're going into these sad times. I'm currently reading book 3, which is the conclusion to this trilogy, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. So this series, the setup is basically there was a very violent and bloody revolution that overthrew these ruling class of dragon lords and have since instituted basically like a people's republic. And we are still dealing with some of the fallout of that horrific revolution. And we are following characters that are vying to basically become the first rider or the leader of the dragon riding fleet of this new People's Republic, and just all of the twists, turns. If you like political fantasy and you like sad things, then look no further. This is a great series so far. I'll let you know after I've read book 3 how I feel about the overall, but so far this is a phenomenal series and I would highly recommend you check it out. Then I also got to Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is the start to a new middle grade series. It's very urban fantasy middle grade. Girl doesn't know about this like hidden society that keeps magic separate from the general populace. She goes, learns. There are trials and tribulations, but it is just so fun. So fun. If you're looking for another middle grade series to give you that Keeper of the Lost Cities vibes, that Harry Potter vibes, Amari and the Night Brothers. Fantastic. And then the last book, my favorite book that I got to this month was A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. So I have seen the show multiple times, one of my favorite shows ever, but I had put off reading the books because for some reason I had it in the back of my mind that I didn't like his writing style. And now that I've read the book, I'm a little bit confused about what I was talking about. The book is phenomenal. And now I'm like, oh my God, I need to collect like all the editions. But like, just the characters, the world, I just love it so much. Season 1 of Game of Thrones was definitely incredibly faithful to the source material. I read the illustrated edition coupled with the audiobook. The audiobook is not good. It's not, let's be honest. His accent's a little weird. Tyrion sounds like a leprechaun. It's okay. But like, that's just a testament to how good the book is, that despite the pretty horrific narration, this book is still phenomenal and my favorite book of the month and probably one of my favorite books ever. Like, it is just so good and I can't wait to pick up book 2 later on. If you somehow don't know, A Game of Thrones is exactly that. If you're looking for very political, gritty, realistic fantasy where not everybody is safe. Horrible things happen all of the time to everybody. And the consequences of that and just the scheming and the political maneuverings behind the scene, like, I don't think anybody has done it better. So one of my favorite starts to a series, one of my favorite series so far. I haven't read the rest of the book, so TBD, but so good. I'm just gonna sit over here and like reminisce about a Game of Thrones. But those are all 14 books that I managed to get through this last month. I also got through one graphic novel, which is The Life of Melody by Marie Costa, which is an adorable graphic novel following this queer gay couple that find this baby in a forest and decide to raise it together. One of them's a fairy, one of them's a troll variant. It's just adorable slice of life in a graphic novel, so if that sounds good to you, you should 100% check it out. But that officially ends the list of everything that I managed to read in the month of July. Have you read any of these? Do you have thoughts that you want to share about any of these? Let me know in the comments down below. And then while you're down there, you can also let me know your favorite book from the month of July and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more bookish shenanigans like this from moi and Katya. But that's all I have for you today, my friends. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!